Replace your hill training with this workout when you are training for your half or full marathon. If you don't know who I am, my name is Tony Johnson. I've run multiple marathons. My best was the Austin Marathon when I finished in 3 hours and 34 minutes. And I've also helped hundreds of other runners train for half and full marathons by only running 3 times a week. And so in this video, I talk about why you don't need to run hills when you are training for your half and full marathon, and a better workout that you can do that's more efficient, that's more effective, and will save you a tremendous amount of time. So I hope you enjoyed this training. And if you do like it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Why you shouldn't run hills when training for a marathon, and what you should do instead to get stronger and save yourself a tremendous amount of time. And so what are the reasons that runners do run hills? And this is according to ChatGPT, the most reliable source out there, but this also is very consistent with what runners say. I've talked to thousands of runners and worked with a couple hundred more, and the main reasons that runners are running hills is because, number one, first and foremost, is it helps build strength. And when you're running up hills, yes, you are putting a lot of tension and focus on your quads and hamstrings. But the question is that the most efficient way to build up strength? And in a minute, I'm going to give you what I believe is the most efficient and effective way to get stronger. Other reasons runners will run hills is it helps improve their runner's economy, cardiovascular shape, mental toughness, injury prevention, and race preparation. And all 6 of those are true, and you do need to train in those domains while you are preparing for your half or full marathon. But the question is that the most effective and is that the most efficient, especially if you are someone who is busy? Let's say you only have time to work out for 45 minutes to an hour, 5-6 times a week because you have a full-time job. Maybe you're picking up some overtime shifts. Maybe you got a family and some kids, and you simply just don't have time to be out there all day long, training multiple times per day and wasting your time. And maybe you have only 10, 12 weeks before your half or full marathon. And so you just don't have a lot of times to mess around. And when time is limited, you have to be efficient. And so the question is, what is the most efficient and what is the most effective way to get stronger, to improve your runner's economy, to improve your cardiovascular shape, mental toughness, injury prevention, and race preparation? And what I have found to be the most efficient and most effective way, especially for building up your strength, is by doing a leg workout, once a week at the minimum, and then making sure that you are doing your upper body, twice a week. So you do like a push-pull leg split, but preferably you lift weights 3 times a week, and then you have 1 day to isolate your legs. And just got a little bit of a pro tip. If you're going to do your long run on the weekends, a Saturday or Sunday, you want to make sure that you train legs on a Wednesday. Because if you try training legs on a Friday and then doing your long run on a Saturday, well, you're going to be sore, you're going to be tired, you're going to be fatigued, and you're just not going to do well in your long run. But if you give yourself 72 hours, 48 hours, give or take, to recover, then you'll be nice and fresh going into your long run. And so what I think you should do instead to be effective, to be more efficient, is to strength train, and is to train your legs, because it's just more efficient and effective. Like, okay, what is the main reason you want to get stronger? Okay, well, are you better off, running up hills to strengthen your legs, or are you better off putting some weight on your back and doing some squats or doing leg press with heavy weights? Because if the goal is to get stronger, then the best area to look at is the bodybuilders, is the professional athletes, is the powerlifters. What are they doing to get stronger? Are they running hills? No, none of them are. Maybe some football players, but what do bodybuilders, what do powerlifters do to get stronger? Well, they put a bunch of weight on their back and they do squats until they essentially can't walk out of the gym. And if the main goal of running hills is to get stronger, then the most efficient thing you can do is get a gym membership, go to the gym, do some squats, leg presses, remaining deadlifts, etc., to really strengthen your legs. And so if that's the goal, you're way better off training your legs in the gym. And then also lifting weights. Okay, is it going to help improve your runner's economy? Yeah, just how efficient you are running, being stronger is going to help with that. Is lifting weights going to increase your cardiovascular? Okay, not really, no. I mean, if you do like 20, 30, 40 reps, maybe, but that's obviously not the goal to lift weights. The goal is to get stronger. And so, okay, it's not going to improve your cardiovascular fitness that much, but because you're already running 3 times a week, sometimes more, well, you're already in cardiovascular shape anyways. And so you essentially don't even need to really train your cardiovascular shape to when you lift weights. And then, okay, mental toughness. Perfect. Well, when you're doing squats, when you're doing leg press, when you're training legs in general, that is very challenging mentally, especially if you're lifting weights that is hard for you, that it's uncomfortable and that challenges you, and that when you do lift it, you can feel the burn in your muscles, and you have to essentially push through to lift a few extra reps. That's going to, I would say, progress your mental toughness more than just running up hills a couple times. And injury prevention, okay, if you get stronger, you're going to strengthen your bones, you're going to strengthen your joints, you're going to strengthen your ligaments and muscles, and so that's going to prevent injuries too. I think it's going to prevent injuries more effective by lifting weights. And then also preparing for races. If, let's say, you are running a race that has hills, I personally, like what I do, like I ran the Austin Marathon, and that's a very hilly course. Like the very end of that race is a huge hill. It's like on mile 25, it's just straight uphill. It's actually very inconvenient, honestly. Like I remember going up that hill. I was in good shape. I wasn't cramping up. I was able to get up that hill pretty easy, but there were a lot of people just laying on the ground. There's a guy that had like some medics next to him because he couldn't move. Other people were walking up the hill like they were struggling. Like it's definitely a hard hill, but if you want to just prepare for hills, I think just running on the street or a path that has hills already kind of built in, I think that's just as good as just running up hills as if you're doing drills. And then 2, one of the things I've learned about hills is your running form. One of the things that I disagree with in the running world is when people run up hills, they stand straight up. They take smaller strides and they stand straight up, and I disagree with that. I think you should actually get lower to the ground and pretend that you're like an ice skater or a hockey player. And if you give it a shot, what's going to end up happening is you're lower to the ground. You're essentially gliding up the hill, so your center of gravity is a bit lower. But I've realized it only works is if you have pretty strong quads, which it goes back to my initial reason of lifting weights. And so here is an example strength training workout I do. I do many of them. I've been lifting weights for about 13 years now. And so this is a hamstring focused leg workout, but there's a lot of exercises, a lot of variations you do. But this is a very simple one that you can do if you really just want to focus on training your hamstrings. But a good exercise to start off with, especially if you're new, is leg press. If you're brand new to the gym, you're better off starting with leg press rather than squats, just because of the form. To get your form right with squats actually takes a lot of time. You got to get your foot placement right. You got to get the width of how far apart you stand. You have to make sure you have the bar placed. You don't want to do it too high where it's on your neck and you're like this. You don't want to have it too low because then it can slide off your back. You also want to make sure that you aren't, putting yourself in position to hurt your lower back, and you have to make sure that you get to a 90 degrees or lower. And so it definitely takes some practice and some time to really get a good understanding of how to do squats. And if you only have, let's say, 12 weeks, 16 weeks to train for your half or your full marathon, you could spend half of that time just trying to figure out how to get your squat right. And I think you're better off if you have a lot more time. And so the best and the most efficient way to really build up your strength is actually by doing leg press, because to get your form right for a leg press, you can figure that out in like 5 minutes. Like it's pretty straightforward. And so with the leg press, for this hamstring isolated exercise, when you do leg press, there's three, you can put your feet in three different places. You can go high and inside, you can do a neutral stance, which is like essentially shoulder width apart, and then you can go down and outside, which can be more quad focused. But if you are doing leg press and with the goal of isolating your hamstrings, you want to put your feet high and inside. It's going to put more tension on your quad, on your hamstrings and your glutes, and it's also a bit easier on the knees and it's a shorter range of motion, so you can move a lot more weight around. And so I would start off with the leg press, prioritize that one, do minimum 3 sets, especially if you're brand new, stick to 3, but if you're more advanced, you can do 4, 5, sometimes even 6 sets. But that's with the warm-up sets. But if you want to do just start off 3 sets, I would always stick to the 8 to 12 rep range, especially when doing isolated exercises, because let's say you're doing 20, 30, 40 reps, and that becomes more of a cardiovascular workout. And like I was saying earlier, that's just simply not the point of lifting weights. The goal is to get stronger. And I always say this, is that you have to have the strength required to run a half or full marathon. And this may be an over-exaggeration, but I want my leg day to be so hard that it's actually harder than running a half marathon. So if you ran a half marathon, you know what that feels like. Now, imagine that feeling plus more every single week when you train legs. Like that's what I'm going for each and every week. And if you are doing higher reps, it's hard to achieve that because it's the reason that you're re-racking the rate, I can't even pronounce that, re-racking the weights is because of the constraint cardiovascular, usually not from a muscular standpoint. And so higher volume, I don't recommend, especially if you're running too. And then on the flip end, if you're doing 1 rep, 2 reps, or 3 reps, more often than not, you put yourself in a position to get injured, unless you have really good form, you have a lot of experience. But if you're going for a 1 rep max, chances are you're going to compromise your form. Your ego is going to take over, so you're going to be lifting heavier than you've ever done before. You may not be fully recovered. You may not have all the necessary equipment, whatever the situation is. I don't recommend doing 1 rep maxes. At the absolute bare minimum reps you should do, I think, is 5. And the highest you should do is 15. But 8 to 12 is that happy medium. And so stick to 8 to 12 rep range. And then start off with 3 sets and take 90 seconds between each set. I like to do 90 seconds or sometimes even 2 minutes if I'm doing a compound lift, right? The bench, squats, deadlifts, shoulder press, leg press, etc. And then I'll do 60 seconds for an isolated routine, right? Romanian deadlifts, hamstring curls, those are all isolated routines. Bicep curls, isolated routine. Tricep extensions, isolated routine. And so if it's a compound lift that requires more effort, more energy, you can lift heavier weights. I take a longer break. If it's an isolated exercise where you're only isolating that one muscle group, you oftentimes are going significantly lighter just because you don't want to recruit other muscle groups. Like if you're doing, let's say, hamstring curls here, right? If you're doing hamstring curls, well, sure, you can go heavier and you can probably do, 100, 200 pounds with hamstring curls, but at what cost? You're going to use momentum. You're probably going to feel a strain on your lower back. Your range of motion is probably going to be a bit less. And then also the negatives of how long it takes you to essentially go from point A to point B is going to be probably only a couple seconds rather than it being slow and controlled. And so I think the hamstring curls and good mornings and Romanian deadlifts here, all these exercises, you should do 12 reps and then 10 reps. And then the compound lifts, you can drop the weight, or you can go heavier and drop the number of reps. But so here's the workout I would do. I would do leg press, start off with that, feet high and inside. Then I would go to Romanian deadlifts and I would use a barbell. And for this exercise, it's very important that you don't go too heavy because it puts your back in such a vulnerable position because you're essentially bending over. And if you are having a heavy amount of weight, especially on the bar, you are putting yourself in a position. That's why I think you should stick to 12 reps, and then if you feel comfortable, do 10, but I don't think doing 8 reps is necessary for Romanian deadlifts. And then hamstring curls, you can go a little bit heavier just because since it's more of like it's in a machine, it's already pretty controlled. And then good mornings, that's another one that you really want to feel the stretch and the burn in your hamstrings. And if you are going too heavy with hamstring curls or with good mornings, I've noticed that one, you bend your knees, and so you don't even get a full stretch. And then 2, it puts more stress on your lower back. And so higher reps, 12 reps is usually, so if I'm doing 3 sets, I would do 12, 12, 10, and then, stick to 60 seconds. And then I would actually do Romanian deadlifts again, but I would do it with a dumbbell. And the reason I do that is because you can put you can adjust the focus of the weight. So with the barbell, your hands are going to be relatively shoulder width apart in front of you, and the weight's going to be pretty balanced. But with dumbbells, you're actually able to kind of move your hands or your arms around, so you can move them back a little bit, you can move them forward, you can move them farther to the side, just because you have that free range. And that just changes how much tension and focus is on your hamstrings. It's not necessary, honestly, but it's a little bit more advanced there. If you just do it basic, that works fine. That's fine too. And then, the last thing, this is more of a calf workout, is calf raises. You can do it seated, you can do it standing. You can use standing calf raises, on the Smith machine. I just like to add in calves to all my leg workouts, but even if it's an isolated routine for hamstrings. But this is a typical hamstring workout I'll do. Like I said, I have a handful of other ones. There's quad workouts I do. There's more of a balance between quads and hamstrings and glutes and calves. And so if you are interested in getting help with your half and full marathon training, there's a few things. You can download free half and full marathon training plans in the link below. If you want to get the starter kit, I think it's $27. We have membership sites that I can help you out even more. And then if you want the full one-on-one coaching, where I can customize your training plans for you and your nutrition plan, and essentially be in your corner from now all the way until your half or full marathon, there'll be a link below for you to book a call to. So I hope you enjoyed this training.